This issue, called Whose Life Is It Anyway, is a very slow one. It doesn't really have the riveting superhero on supervillain action that you'd expect in an X-Men comic. Instead, it does what this era was famous for and spends time delving into the minds of the characters, enriching our understanding of them and highlighting the insecurities they have with themselves and with each other. This issue isn't meant to be action-heavy. It's here to tie up some loose ends that the characters have left dangling with each other and introduce a few new fraying threads. It's an issue that was written to deepen your relationship with the characters as their relationships deepen with each other. So while I totally understand the point of this issue, and I think it's an important one, it certainly isn't my favorite. Don't get me wrong, I do enjoy a thorough character study, but I feel like nothing really happened in this issue beyond some conflict resolution. It's a nice read, and the character portrayals are on point, but I did miss some sort of external menacing threat. I know comics can't be all action all the time, and they're better because of that, but I do need some excitement to make me want to turn the page. There's a brief altercation between Storm and the Rusher Street Rebels, but what are a bunch of street thugs to the Mistress of the Elements? They don't stand a chance, and you know it as you read it. While it's fun to watch Storm beat up the rebel gang, having her life in peril is not really the focus of the battle. It's really there to show just how ruthless Storm has become, and even though she's victorious in battle, the resulting fear shown in the elderly couple that she just saved is evidence enough of the new her. But hey, at least a little action is better than no action at all. Here are some of the highlights and lowlights for me in this issue.
Professor X.
We start the issue by seeing Professor X shooting some hoops in his new body. For the uninformed, his original body was recently destroyed after an altercation with the Brood Queen, but his essence was transferred into this new body, which just so happened to have functioning legs. It's cute watching Professor X dribble the ball around the gym. Who knew Charles had such finesse? It's particularly enjoyable to see because we only really know Xavier to be wheelchair-bound. He's regained the ability to walk a few times over the years, including in the current comics of today, but the concept was pretty novel back in these days. Watching him run around like this is akin to watching those videos of colorblind people see in color for the first time. It's just heartwarming. There's a bit of a groaner moment when he's confiding in Storm about how his unchecked psychic ability forced him to give up playing basketball back in college. He could read the opposing team's thoughts and knew their every move before they made it, giving him an unfair advantage in the game. Insert rolling eyes here. The logic is definitely in line with the Xavier code of ethics, and yeah, it's admirable, but I am sure his team would have definitely appreciated the winning streak. Still, he does have a valid point. Without the thrill of potential defeat, there's really no joy in team sports. The Professor and Storm have a great heart-to-heart in this issue. Unlike Storm's relationship with Kitty, which is currently on the rocks, the Professor isn't fazed in the slightest by Storm's new look. He understands that Storm's just figuring herself out. He reminds me of the supportive parent watching their kid go through puberty or something. He knows that everything will sort itself out in the end. His best bet is to give Storm the space and time she needs while she conducts her own soul searching, but to also be there as a pillar of support for when she needs a friend. He does give off some creepy vibes when he mentions how attractive he's been finding her lately, though. Don't get me wrong, Storm is a total babe regardless of how much or how little leather she's wearing, but it just feels a bit off coming from her mentor. It reminds me of his unrequited love for Jean Grey way back in the day, which was, just wrong.
Storm.
Storm is not really feeling herself these days. She worries about the changes she's gone through, unable to consolidate them into the identity she once had as a goddess, nor as her new role as the leader of the X-Men. She knows she's changed, and while she doesn't fear the changes, she's worried that she's lost a very important part of herself that was essential to her being, namely the aspect of her that once held all life sacred. I think this stage of Storm's life is really relatable. I mean, who hasn't gone through a phase that they thought would last forever? I used to be gothic in high school, and at the time, it was definitely the most authentic me I was being. Storm is concerned for her own well-being because she's just discovering there's a new ruthlessness inside of her, and while she certainly doesn't love it, she doesn't hate it either. The change is so drastic from how she once self-identified that she even approaches the Professor to check for mental illness within her, certain that she could clear her conscience a bit if she could put the blame on some chemical tampering. But alas, the psi probes come back negative. It's just the new you, girl. Deal with it. Storm is a character who understands things on a very deep level, the very nature of things, if you will. In order for her to be at peace with herself, she needs to first understand what has sparked these changes within her. The whole thing feels pretty allegorical to Storm becoming a woman versus staying a girl. She's discovering new facets of herself, and while growth is inevitable, it's most definitely scary too. Her fears are calmed a bit when she discovers that she still does feel her innate connection to Mother Earth. I think that assuages her fear that she's become an entirely different person. At least on a genetic level, she's remained unchanged. This new Storm is just another dimension of who she is, and it's not a total replacement. While I hate to see anyone doubt their own self-expression, I do think her journey of self-exploration is well worth the trip. Storm needs to understand how she got here from being there, and turning inward is the only way she'll find answers. She sums it up nicely during her confrontation with Kitty during the emotional high of the issue, after she uses her command over the winds to force Kitty into having an honest chat with her in the skies. Kitty has pretty much snubbed Storm since the change, and that snubbery has taken a toll on Storm's mental health. Kitty and Storm had a very mother-daughter relationship, so it's a cold shoulder that strikes Storm more icily than most. Granted, Storm shouldn't be basing her self-worth on others' perception of her, but let's be real, easier said than done, especially when the relationship has seemingly been tainted for no good reason. Storm admits to Kitty that she's in conflict with herself, but she urges Kitty to lay off the judgy attitude for a while. She's just sorting things out. After all, she's still Storm, she's just feeling a little under the weather.
Kitty Pryde.
Kitty's big talk with Storm is the climax of this issue, but there's also a lot of time spent exploring Kitty's relationship with Doug Ramsey. She's getting a lot closer to Doug, and while some of her teammates might be jealous over the new relationship, it's nice watching Kitty goof around with someone her own age. There's a funny part that takes place in an arcade where Kitty overloads a machine by being too good at it, and then she and Doug are subsequently banned for life for only ever spending a quarter yet staying for hours. I think it might have been the basis for that famous scene with Jubilee in the animated series, where she's also at an arcade, but instead of gaming ability, it's her mutant ability that sparks out of control and fries the console. I'm more partial to Jubilee's scene since it's a lot more fun and active, but it's nice to see where the homage comes from. Of course, Storm is the topic du jour, so when the two friends are eating lunch, Kitty spills the tea on what's up. Doug confronts her about why she's so grumpy lately, and she confides that it's all Storm's fault. She admits that the new Storm scares her and tells Doug that she doesn't feel the same emotion for Storm that she used to. Basically, she's looking to drop Storm like she's hot. Seeing a close friend go through a dramatic change, cosmetically and attitudinally, can be hard to take. We select people to forge relationships with based on who the person is, and if who the person is changes, then sometimes we have to ask ourselves if there's anything left there to maintain the integrity of that relationship at all. Even if Kitty is coming off as really bratty here, and yeah, she is, her feelings are still valid. Just because Storm has changed doesn't mean Kitty has to like it. Yes, she should respect the new Storm and try to understand where she's coming from, but Kitty is absolutely free to have her own opinions about it too, and if she doesn't like it, then she doesn't like it. While I do think Kitty is being unreasonable, it's important to remember that she's only like 13 years old here and can't be expected to have a very matured viewpoint when it comes to personal relations. What we're treated to here is a totally candid convo between her and Doug. Kitty's saying things that would really be said between friends. The writers aren't holding back. I don't agree with the words that Kitty says, but I do think they were written very realistically. Like when I'm talking smack about someone behind their back, I'm not holding back either. Sure, Kitty could be a bit more like Xavier and just let Storm sort through her own business on her own time, but relationships are fickle. They are volatile by nature, so if one person suddenly shifts in their demeanor, the original connection that held that relationship together can easily be broken. That's where Kitty is now, and she basically has a choice to make. She can accept the new Storm and welcome her like a friend, or she can shut her out and cut her from her life. She misses the old Storm, the one who took residence in her heart, and she wants her back. She doesn't realize it, but she's essentially asking Storm to bend to her will. She wants Storm to express herself the way Kitty wants her to express herself, not the true, authentic way Storm actually feels. Kitty is denying Storm the opportunity to be herself, and even if Storm isn't quite sure who she is anymore, even denying her the opportunity to discover more about herself is a very selfish act on Kitty's part. I think the whole scene is handled really well. Kitty's been having a hard time after her parents' divorce, and it becomes clear during this confrontation that some of the anger she feels towards Storm is really just residual frustration from that situation that's been misdirected. Her family has been broken, and now Kitty worries that her extended family, the one she's made with the X-Men, is being broken too. Storm was her rock on the team, someone she could love and confide in, but now that Kitty can't recognize that rock, she's feeling more unsteady than ever. Storm does a good job of talking some sense into Kitty. Kitty's anger isn't going to bring back the old Storm, it's just going to suffocate the new one. What's happened to Storm is the inevitability of change, and change is a scary thing for a 13-year-old to digest. Given time, Kitty will recognize and accept that change is a natural and expected part of life. She can't outright say that she approves of the new Storm just yet, but Kitty does agree to try to come to terms with it. Hopefully these baby steps will be enough for the two friends to rediscover each other in their new status quos.
Doug Ramsey.
Doug is a big old goof in this issue. He definitely relates to Kitty on that 13-year-old level that none of the other X-Men are capable of doing, and he's rewarded with a special bond to her because of it. Even if it wasn't their ages that brought them so close together, he certainly seems to be as dramatically nerdy as Kitty is, so it seems inevitable that they would have found each other somehow. They really would make a perfect pair if they both weren't so, into older folks. It's really cute seeing his excitement as he talks to Kitty about his potential enrollment in the White Queen's Academy. He doesn't know he's a mutant yet, and is also totally oblivious to the Hellfire Club's nefarious behind-the-scenes schemes in that institution. In fact, Doug is pretty ignorant of anything that goes on in the mutant world right now. I think he is meant to serve as the average person POV in the series. Where Kitty is the reader's entry point into the world of the X-Men, Doug represents everything non-X-Men. Everything mundane and, regular. Xavier spills the beans on Doug's mutancy later on in the issue, much to Kitty's shock, but he swears her to secrecy since Doug's mastery over languages is an extremely passive ability. There's no reason to risk him in battle against the Sentinel if he can't talk the robot out of it. It's funny reading this because at this point in Doug's life, he, nor Xavier, nor any of the Marvel staff, nor its readers ever would have guessed how integral to mutant society Doug Ramsey would eventually become.
Colossus.
Colossus is back in action after having been frozen in a thermal state for the past few issues. He's healing from his physical injuries, but it's his emotional wounds that have him down. He's fretting about his relationship with Kitty and is convinced that she's not interested in him. He's a bit depressed with how frequently she's been hanging out with Doug because he sees Doug as a perfect match for Kitty, which, side note, he is. Colossus just can't understand what Kitty would see in a poor little peasant like him. Wolverine tries to talk some sense into Peter without being too preachy, but it's no use. It's a self-pity party and only Colossus is invited. Peter is a humble and sensitive character by nature, so it's really in line personality-wise for this jealousy he feels to manifest itself in the form of self-loathing and not in something aggressive toward Doug. His mind immediately goes to, I'm not good enough, I'm not up to snuff, how can I compete with that goofball Doug? Peter has an artistic soul that allows him to see the beauty and the worth of others, but very rarely does he see those same qualities within himself. For such a strong guy in the field, Colossus is awfully doubtful of himself in person. He knows that he can bring the muscle, but he often doubts his overall purpose on the team and questions his relationships with the others. He's a textbook case of overanalyzation. He thinks way too hard about stuff instead of talking about it. It's very artist of him. He can feel, but he can't necessarily express in a way that's clear to others. His insecurities are so deep-rooted that they actually do harm to his own self-image. It's a totally nutso way for him to be thinking because, boy, just look in the mirror. You've got it going on. But his emotional tenderness is part of what makes Peter the heart of the team, and if he's not being sensitive about situations, then he wouldn't be the little brother Storm so often refers to him as. If only his heart was as invulnerable as that steely armored exterior of his.
Emma Frost.
Emma makes only the briefest of cameos in this issue, and for a woman who's supposed to be in a coma right now, she looks great. She pulls aside the curtain on Doug and Kitty's private flight to the academy and greets them in the most menacing of ways. She's obviously got revenge on the mind and is looking forward to exacting it. Of course, Kitty can't alarm Doug to the situation, him being totally in the dark about everything Hellfire, so it sets up some dramatic tension for whatever misadventures Kitty and Doug will get up to at the school. It's a great cliffhanger to end the issue on.
Panels.
Here are some cute mini moments I liked in this issue, followed by my favorite panel and my favorite noise.
5.
Kitty's choice of arcade game. I sure hope these dragons are supposed to be little Lockheeds, because that's what I choose to see.
4.
Storm nurturing her greenhouse plants after they demand her full attention. Such an attentive mother.
3.
Kitty and Doug at lunch. One of them is doubly hungry, and I want to know who's having that third burger.
2.
The letterbox is letting us know that Storm's enshrouding herself in St. Elmo's fire, and thus getting this song stuck in my head.
1.
My favorite panel this issue is definitely Xavier's mad basketball skills. Look at those moves. Even though I'm totally lost in the Abdul-Jabbar reference, Xavier certainly believes he's keeping with good company on the court. I mean, if he's good enough to have an entire basketball league or something in his name, then he must know his stuff. There wasn't any noise lettering in this issue since there wasn't really any physical fighting, so I have to cheat and give the best noise to Xavier's "Ororo!" It's an exclamation he makes shortly after his latest psychic attack, and while it's not a true noise in the sense that I mean it, I can certainly hear him scream in this panel. Ororo! Just as a general side note, I want to give a shout out to the composition panel framing of this era. There are a few panels where the main characters are jabbering away in the background, while the foreground is occupied by a casual citizen, such as a shopper or a passerby. I like when the artists do this. It helps make the X-Men's world seem fuller. It also gives any action that may occur some inherent stakes, as it suddenly puts all those foreground bystanders we've seen into some peril. That sort of action doesn't happen in this issue, but it's still nice to get a 360 view of the X-Men's world.
Fashion.
There are some seriously nice looks in this issue, and I'm going to start it off with an extremely unsuspecting suspect. The professor himself, Charles Xavier. This is some fantastic workout gear if ever I've seen any. He's matching bald head to toe in yellow and red, from the headband to the wristbands to the tucked-in tank top to the booty shorts with the yellow trim. It's a look worth repeating and something I would certainly wear myself. It's bright 80s gym getup incarnate, and he wears it well. I've never considered Xavier to be a possible sex symbol, but is he? If Xavier is indeed a fashion icon, he's been hiding that wardrobe up until now. Even later on, when he shows up wearing his signature yellow and a slim-fitting turtleneck and some bold blue slacks in the study, I'm not bothered by it. Charles does sweaty and sophisticated, and he does them both well. If the professor hadn't had any notable fashion moments to date, which I'm pretty sure he hadn't, this issue certainly puts him on the radar for me. Kitty, on the other hand, where do I start? I think it's a running joke within the X community that Kitty has no fashion sense whatsoever. We've all seen that photo of her short-lived, self-selected clashing uniform, so I actually applaud the X office if her lack of taste is a character continuity thing. I wanted to like what she was wearing in this issue, and I'll give her credit for the accessorizing. The purple jacket, the blue headband, and the yellow tusk earrings pop for me. But when you strip those all away, what are you left with? An ill-fitting purple sweater and awkwardly length boot with some sort of lavender stocking tucked into them? It's just not jiving with me, and Kitty can face her way out of here. Storm once again shows everyone how it's done. She wears a simple but elegant black jacket and a playfully oversized and overstated blue belt that just really helps bring her combo together. I've never met a fishnet I haven't liked, so pair them with those little black booties and the whole thing just comes together so perfectly. The White Queen is hard-pressed to ever wear anything less than flawless. She's also hard-pressed to ever be wearing much at all, so seeing her like this in a full white pantsuit is a nice change of pace. The skinny belt is a cute touch to help break up the monotony of white on white on white, but the true pièce de résistance is the single encrust of diamond adorning her cravat. She's definitely bending men's fashion in this look and flipping it in the best possible way.
Ads.
These full-page ad spreads are truly a treasure trove of chuckles. Handcuffs, x-ray glasses, the whole magic shop works are there. This style of advertising wasn't really a thing when I was a kid reading comics, but whoo boy, if it was. Since this issue dealt mostly with characters' insecurities and emotional well-being, it only seems fair to highlight an ad that's similar in theme. Like this one. Girl trouble? These strangers can help. Apparently in the 80s, lack of car was such a huge enough impediment to keep people from approaching the ladies that it merited calling out in an ad. This place calls itself the Golden Institute, and it promises that for only 25 cents and with their proven, probably scientific methods, you will get and keep a girlfriend. I would love to meet someone who took them up on this offer and see if it worked. Incidentally, I decided to Google the address they provide, and apparently this is what's there now. Can't really tell what it is, but it sure doesn't look like a place I'd go to for advice on girls.
X-Mail.
This issue didn't have a letters page. Yep, so nothing to see here. Carry on. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I've said in the comments below, and come on back for more Great X-Mentations.